Hi there, welcome or welcome back to the Books Are Us. On my November to be read, I noticed that I had two books that I have wanted to read for a long time, and they are The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and A Study in Drowning. So in this video, I'll be reading both of them and I'll be comparing the two reads. So that's why it's called Read, Read, or Read, which I thought was quite funny. Anyway, by now I have read both of these and I will show you my initial reactions after I read these, and then I'll be back at the end with a comparison between the two. Alright, see you later. I have just finished The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and I love this book very much. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was so much fun to read this book. But let me start by telling you what it is about. We have this woman named Monique, and Monique is a journalist, but she hasn't published anything too interesting yet. Her career hasn't taken off yet. And she is working for this magazine, and one day she is asked by name specifically to interview Evelyn Hugo. And Evelyn Hugo is this fantastic movie star who is now in her late 70s, and she hasn't done any interviews in the last couple of decades probably. She took a step back from the spotlight around her 50s, and now she wants to do an interview with Monique. And Monique doesn't understand why she has been asked for specifically, which is actually quite a hook for the rest of this book, because we learn that Evelyn Hugo has a reason for asking Monique, but we do not know what that reason is yet in the beginning. Now, Evelyn Hugo is, as I said, a famous movie star. She has won an Oscar. She has had several nominations. She has made some great movies. She is known for her body because she was this bombshell. And she has had 7 husbands, as the title says. And through this book, we follow her story from the beginning. So we get through each husband, so to say. Each husband is the start of a new part of the book, like this, for example. So you have the intro, so to speak, which is a bit about Monique, and then we get into those 7 parts about the 7 husbands. And then at the end we have some reveals going on. One thing that was predictable, and another one that I did not see coming. Although we had been warned to look for it throughout this book, I did not see it coming. And it is always very good to me if you have a twist that you didn't see coming. If it is a good twist, of course. Now, I was actually very surprised that I liked this book so much, because I am not interested in any Hollywood gossip. I do not know who's with who. I am not interested in reading about actors and their lives. This is actually a good example of a book that I would have never picked up if it weren't for its popularity on social media. So I'm very glad for all the press that it got, for all the people who have mentioned this book, because I, once again, truly enjoyed reading this one. So definitely points for Taylor Jenkins Reid for this one. On to the next contender. I have finished The Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. This book is about Effie, and she is a student at university, but at this university girls are not allowed to study literature, which she actually wanted to study, and instead she is studying architecture, but she's the only girl there. Most girls study music. And the reason that girls are not allowed to study literature is because girls are believed to have no talent for writing. They are supposed to be frivolous, and they don't have the right mindset to study literature. Now, Effie is going through something else too, because there is a lot of talk going around about her and one of her professors. But you learn more about what actually happened during this book. But the main plot of this book is that Effie's favorite author has died a couple of months ago. And now there is this contest for architecture students to make a plan for a new home for this writer's family to live in. And she feels very much compelled to do this because it was her favorite author and she loved his books, and she has read his most famous book so often that she can practically tell it by heart. And because she is an architecture student, she draws up this plan of this dream vision of a house that she has that corresponds to this author's writing. And she sends it in, and of course she gets chosen and she goes to that house. And at that house, which is a very strange Victorian manor right at a cliff's edge to the sea, and it is dripping with water all the time. It is very much moldy, and the wallpaper is getting loose because of all the humidity. And there we meet Yanto, who is the son of the author that has deceased, and we also meet Preston, who is an actual literature student doing his thesis on this deceased writer. And then of course we notice that not everything is what it is supposed to be, and the plot moves on from there. Okay, so this book is actually like a Victorian fairy tale. It is fantasy, we have fantastical elements. And at first I really wasn't into this book. It took me about 100 pages to actually get into this, because at the beginning it is a bit blurry. You get some world building, but everything is still kind of vague. It felt like there was this prequel book or something that I hadn't read, because it took me a while to get into this, to understand everything, and to actually get interested in these characters, because I really wasn't at the beginning. But then after 100 pages, I finally found the vibe that this book was trying to give you, and I got more into it, and I actually enjoyed it very much, because once you are into this one, then it is done quite well. The writing is very good. As far as the plot goes, I did predict beforehand what the final result would be. But the story still swept me along, because it builds up to this climactic finale, which was truly well done and which is very reminiscent of other Victorian novels. And I could really appreciate what Ava Reid was doing here. So all in all, not the best start, but eventually a book that I appreciated quite a lot. And so we're back where we started. Now, to compare these two, first of all, it is quite clear that these are very different books. They are different genres altogether. So The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is a literary fiction. And this one is definitely open to a wider audience, I think, because people who do not like fantasy will like this one. And I think people who do like fantasy can also enjoy this one, just because there are a lot of elements that I think would speak to anybody. It is rightfully a favorite among booktubers and booktalkers. It was easy to read from the beginning, and it was entertaining until the end. And then we had A Study in Drowning, which, as I said before, will appeal more to people who enjoy fantasy or Victorian novels, maybe some more cozy fantasy, fairy tale-esque fantasy, I'd say. And as you saw, I had a more difficult time getting into this one, which made it a little frustrating. But at the end, I enjoyed this book as well. But if I had to pit them against each other, if I had to recommend one on the spot, then I would recommend The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, just because I think it is easier to enjoy than this one is. Having said that, however, I do know that there is an audience out there that would definitely prefer this one. This one also felt a bit more mature. I have the feeling that Taylor Jenkins Reid is older than Ava Reid. I might be very wrong about that one. I should have looked that up. But in this one, you notice that the author knows what she's talking about when she's talking about family, when she is talking about growing up and the regrets that you can have, or the things that you have accomplished and how you look back on that. Whereas this one is more about dreaming and having the future ahead of you and what you would do with that one. Now, while reading these, I've realized that it isn't quite fair to compare an author based on just one of their books. I know that both of these writers have written more books, so I have decided to call this video Read, Read or Read Round 1. And then I'm planning to do a second round in 2025 and see who comes out on top then. So that's it for this video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want to, and I hope to see you soon in another one. Bye!